The next relation we're going to go over is the many-to-many relation. An example of a many-to-many relation would be books to authors. Each book could have more than one author, and each author could have more than one book. Or another example would be students and teachers. A student has multiple teachers, and a teacher has multiple students. So the thing to note in both of these cases and in many world cases is that although it is a many-to-many relation, there are not a very large number of authors for each book or a very large number of books for each author. Instead, it tends to be few to few. And that's going to allow us to use the hierarchy and the rich document structure of MongoDB pretty easily, whereas it wouldn't be possible if it were truly many-to-many. So let's look at books to authors. Although there are probably a large number of books and there are probably a large number of authors, as we said, each book probably has a small number of authors, and each author has a small number of books. And so what we can do is we can link them by creating an array right in the document. So, for instance, in this author's document that I'm showing on the right, I can put a book ID right in here, plus the book ID of other books that this author might have written. Now, I could go in both directions, and I could, if I wanted, also create an author's key in the books collection and have an array of authors for each book. In this case, this particular book, Gone with the Wind, written by Margaret Mitchell, has only a single author, so I'll just put a single author in here. And whether this makes sense depends a lot on the access patterns. If you want to be able to quickly traverse from a book to its authors, then it could make sense without doing an additional query to have it linked in that direction, and vice versa if you want to start with authors and get quickly to books. Now, having them linked in both directions probably would be my preference because it creates the opportunity to have the data be inconsistent if it's not tied together well. But you can do it if you want to for performance reasons. Now the other option is you could just embed it. So you could, for instance, rather than have this array here, we could just embed the book. I'm going to cross this out, and you could embed the book right in the author collection and put information about the book that the author has written right in here. But I don't love that because what's going to happen is that the book is going to wind up, I mean not often, given it doesn't usually have multiple authors, but it could wind up in the author's collection multiple times, duplicated, and open us up to having update anomalies where modification anomalies where the information doesn't stay consistent. Now, if that's what you need for performance reasons, you need to embed the book inside the author collection, then by all means do it. But I would avoid it unless you needed to do it for performance reasons. In this particular case, I'd make books and authors both a first-class object. You know, it's also important to remember that there are no foreign key constraints inside MongoDB, as we talked about earlier. So there's no guarantee that if you put an ID here, that it's going to appear over here. All right, so next let's talk about the students and teachers relationship. So students and teachers looks a lot like books and authors, where a teacher can have multiple students and a student can have multiple teachers, and I'd probably handle it the same way. I'd have a student collection and I'd have a teacher's collection, and I'd have the information about the student listed in the student collection, and the information about the teacher listed in the teacher collection, and then I would link in one direction or the other, and I would have an array of items. If I want to know the students for this teacher, I could put that right in here and find the students very quickly, and I might link in both directions and also have an array of teachers in my students collection. Now, again, you could embed, at the risk of duplicating data, you could decide that you want to put the teachers inside the student collection so that this is, instead of being an array of object IDs or underscore IDs that need to then be traversed through additional queries in the application, you could just put the data right inside the collection. Now that wouldn't be a good idea in the case of embedding teachers in the student collection, and the reason is there's a very good chance that you want to insert a teacher into the system before you have students. And you may want to insert a student into the system before he has teachers. And if you do embed like that, then you are requiring that the parent object exist in order to represent the child object. And that may not map to what the application wants to permit.